Finally, Clemson Sports Talk has come back to Drive Time. Hello, everybody. Lawton Swan back in the saddle once again. It is the show that shakes the Southland. Clemson Sports Talk for you each and every afternoon as you make your way around the great state of South Carolina and beyond, listening to us on incredible radio stations like Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands, heard around the world on the iHeartRadio application. Download it today. It is free. The website, put the .com on it. Doggone it, that's ClemsonSportsTalk.com. 803-450-0086. 4 to 6 o'clock every day, whether we're here live or not. Fox Sports Radio 1400, the iHeartRadio app, and covering your Tigers online as well. ClemsonSportsTalk.com. $1 gets you in the door. Lots of free content, but $1 gets you in the door for the exclusive recruiting articles for 3 months. After that, $63.17. That's right. Gamecock Nation. You heard it here. $63.17 for you to be a part of what we do. Not the Gamecocks are hanging out with us online, but they are certainly here on the radio show.
So you could continue to peek over the fence at the best radio show in the nation.
The late, great Cleveland man, one of the great Tigers, would have loved what took place last night in the Dean Dome. 80-76. The Clemson Tigers come away with a 4-point victory, up 7 in the waning moments, a 3 at the buzzer for the Tar Heels to make it closer than anybody, I guess, expected on that front from the standpoint of, I think most people were like me. I think they thought that North Carolina was going to win this ball game. As a matter of fact, I went on the air yesterday and said that, look, I'd be happy to sit in here with you today and eat a little crow because of all the remaining games on Clemson's schedule, none of them seem like matchups where you go, yep, that's a surefire win. I can tell you that. Not a single matchup along the way did I think, oh, yep, Clemson's going to win that one. And that should indicate to you how this team has been playing as of late, and also the fact that Georgia Tech's had some success at home this year. And Clemson clearly is not the team that they were coming out of the gates at the beginning of the season. But now, leading wire to wire in this victory over the Tar Heels, jumping out to a huge lead early. As a matter of fact, the lead was so big. By the way, you can comment. Leave your comments here if you want. Let us know what you think. What were your thoughts on the victory last night? Matter of fact, let's go ahead and put that on the screen for you. Because I want to hear what you have to say about it as well. Because this is a roller coaster ride, as I've said. And the fact that the Tigers went up to Chapel Hill, a house of horrors for every Clemson Tiger fan's existence. And now you can say you have won 2 out of 3 in that venue. Holy moly. Not to mention, it was the program's second win ever on the road against on an opponent's home court of a top, 3 team? Second ever, and the highest ranked opponent Clemson has beaten on the home court since January 21st, 1976. An 82-77 win at Maryland. I mean, that's the kind of game and win that gets the fans who have, cast Brad Brownell to the side and said, well, we're going, who's next? And I said yesterday, and look, let me preface all this by saying, this does not save Brad Brownell's job. Okay, it's a step closer towards the NCAA tournament, which would then put Graham Neff in the situation where he would say, well, he made the NCAA tournament, and that was kind of the cut line, okay? But in terms of this season, a big step forward was made. You could make the argument that this victory over as high a ranked team as North Carolina is, the number 3 team, or they were the number 3 team in the country, will bolster Clemson's resume to the point of where you could legitimately dismiss, and I know people with quad one, and Clemson, I think, is 4-4 in the quad one, but you can almost dismiss the double overtime loss to Georgia Tech, which was a major letdown. I'm not going to lie. When I'm watching the North Carolina game and there's a minute and 37 seconds remaining, I'm looking at the clock going, oh boy, here we go. We're about to be at 133. And I've seen Clemson blow a tire with a minute and 33 left in a couple of games this year at Duke, Georgia Tech. I hope it doesn't happen here. But what Brad Brownell and the Clemson Tigers did yesterday was prove what the metrics have said about them all year. That they should be in the NCAA tournament, that they played well enough to make it. Even still, the most befuddling loss of all is that Georgia Tech loss. And maybe you just chalk that up as dumb luck because there were some shots late in that game. But that game, the loss at Duke, clearly carried over into that matchup against Louisville. Clearly carried over in that loss against Louisville. And then I didn't see much of a hangover against Virginia. But the Cavaliers still ventured into Little John Coliseum and came away with a 1-point victory this past weekend, which obviously left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouth, losing 2 consecutive weekends by a singular point against 2 of the teams that are at or near the top of the ACC. And going into this game yesterday, I basically said, look, there's no chance they win this game. There are a ton of games on this schedule where I'm iffy about what they'll do. But that was a game last night that I said, there's no way. I just watched what North Carolina did to Duke. And I'm going to tell you this, too. I didn't hear what Hubert Davis had to say after the game. I don't care what Hubert Davis had to say after the game. That team, to me, didn't get into the situation that they did out of the gates because they had played so great against the Blue Devils and they were, just in the euphoric state and not focused. Clemson came out and like a great boxer gave their best shot to the Tar Heels. And they stunned them. They stunned them out of the gates. And credit North Carolina because this is what great teams do. Great teams answer the bell. Great teams answer the bell. And I thought that the Tar Heels did that. Whether it was Armando, don't call me Andrew Baycott, 3-point play after 3-point play, whatever circumstances they were dealing with in that game, North Carolina continued to just slowly chip away at Clemson's advantage, which is what championship level and great teams do. When you find yourself in a hole, stop digging and figure out a way to get out of it. And that's what North Carolina did. And I credit them for that because obviously that speaks to who they are as a basketball team. And it's the reason they will continue to be one of the toughest teams in the ACC. As for Clemson, couple of things I liked, some things I didn't. PJ Hall scores 25 points in the game, has a couple of plays late that are very clutch. Clutch baskets, using his left hand, whatever was necessary to finish at the rim against one of the best big men in the ACC. And Baycott had previously said that the Atlantic Coast Conference runs through me. And I said on the program yesterday that Clemson had to prove that they and PJ Hall could go through Andrew Baycott. And he did. 8 of 20, 4 of 10 from beyond the arc. There's the thing I don't like. Because it happened again. PJ came out hot. came out shooting the ball good from the perimeter, and fell in love with the three. Now, there's something to be said for pulling Baycott or any big defender out from the basket. I mean, there truly is something to be said for utilizing that as part of the strategy. But even still, coming down the wire, I think PJ started, 3 for 3 from beyond the arc. He finished 1 of 7, right? Coming down the stretch, I've got a PJ Hall hoisting a couple of 3-point shots in scenarios where if he hits it, they are potentially the daggers, right? So it felt like watching it that PJ wanted to be the guy to deliver the dagger. Now, I've played a lot of basketball in my life. And anytime I was thinking about the scenario in which I was playing, I was less apt to be successful. Clutch players don't make big shots because they think about the moment. Clutch players make big shots because they make those big shots routine shots. They don't think about the pluses and the minuses that will come from whether or not the shot is made or missed. Great players focus on form. Great players focus on repetition. Clutch players win games not because of the moment, but because of the practice. And so I was watching this play out, and as PJ Hall's putting up some threes, let me see what the time those shots came in the game. Let's see. He had a missed three-pointer with 4:48 left when Clemson was up 70-65. You think it's not significant to go 73-65 there? He had a missed three-pointer when it was 72-70. You think it's not important to go up 75-70? So there were some three-pointers. He had a missed three-pointer with 8 minutes, a missed three-pointer with 9. I kept feeling like PJ Hall, again, 25 points in the game, but I just kept feeling like we were getting a little bit of hero ball where he felt like, he felt compelled to be the guy that had to make the play. And maybe that's the burden he bears being the leader of this team. But ultimately, I think there may have been some better shots. I have no problem if PJ Hall shoots a three late in the game when the shot clock is dwindling. But if there's a rebound, a refresh shot clock, if Ian Shefflin is doing Ian Shefflin things, I think today we're all feeling a little bit like Ian Shefflin. I like a little mean mug Ian Shefflin, letting people know how he's feeling. 14 points for the Chef, 11 rebounds. But to me, that was the biggest concern I had coming down the stretch, and maybe even more so for Clemson. As the game played out, had they lost the game, I was already thinking, like in this business, you think about, what tomorrow's topic's going to be. And I kept thinking to myself, I'm going to have to come in here and talk about how PJ Hall let the team down, even with a huge performance, because of some of his late shot selection. But Clemson survived it. The Tigers found a way. Joe Girard was big in this ball game. He was basically invisible in the first matchup at Little John Coliseum. Joe Girard goes 5 of 10 from beyond the arc, 7 of 16, 21 points in the game. And the other thing about his play, and I will say Jay Williams made a good point in this, is that Joe Girard has his own pace of play. He's not a guy that is just out of control. It's occasionally, and I think you even saw it with one of his turnovers, it's almost a little bit too slow for this level. But he doesn't put himself in situations where that becomes something that hinders his ability to still play the game at the highest level, right? Like Joe Girard is not somebody that's breaking dudes down off the dribble and getting into the lane and trying to make a whole lot of plays all that often. When he does, I'd say 8 out of 10, maybe 9 out of 10 times, you see he'll quickly turn, put his back to the basket, and try to find an outlet to get the ball back out to the perimeter. But there were a couple of shots in the game where, he caught the ball, maybe could have been rushed, maybe could have rushed the shot, but you had the one where you had the big pump fake, and you just see the North Carolina defender flying by like, oh no, like, you're on a string. And so with that, and the way that he played certainly, boosted Clemson. 80-76, the final score. The Tigers take down the number 3 ranked Tar Heels. Benny's hanging out with us. He says Brad Brownell is the Tommy Bowden of basketball. Benny, I said it yesterday, that exact thing. And it's really weird because the similarities may have taken a step forward with that victory last night and not a step backwards, because what you've seen from Brad Brownell, and I said this yesterday, he's only finished, I should say, above 500 once in the final 10 games of ACC play, and they went 6-4 during that stretch. Now, this was a great start here, and I felt like coming down the line, this team needed to finish, 7-3 in these final 10. 8-2 would be spectacular given this kind of midseason. I don't even know how to describe it. Lull. But I think that this kind of victory here fits exactly with the model of what we saw from Tommy Bowden, where just when the fans are checking out, losing at Wake Forest in football, and you come back and you beat a number 3 ranked Florida State team at home. And it's the old Sopranos line. I'm trying to get out or whatever, and they pull me back in. And I know that, I guess that's from The Godfather, but that was always on The Sopranos. Anyway, Clemson wins, and now you find yourself in and we'll take a look. We got a break coming up, let's see, in just a second. And we'll drop off of the live feed. We'll be on iHeartRadio, Fox Sports Radio 1400 from 4 until 6 o'clock, so you can hang out with us over there. But now Clemson heads into their next matchup, which will certainly be a unique one for the aforementioned Joe Girard, as they get set to take on the Syracuse Orange up at the JMA Wireless Dome, formerly known as the Carrier Dome, at noon on Saturday, which will be a homecoming for Girard. I can imagine fans will be absolutely all over him in that game. Well, maybe not. Maybe that'll be interesting. That it's not like he played 2 years and left. I mean, he's a guy that played basically a whole career, coaching staff change. Jim Boeheim retires and he leaves and comes at Clemson. So maybe they won't give Girard too hard of a time there in Syracuse this Saturday. That'll be interesting to see how they kind of treat him. But all that being said, for Clemson, that was a huge win for the back half of the season. Now the question becomes, can they finish the job? Or, as Benny kind of noted, will they ride like the Tommy Bowden roller coaster to the finish? And if they do that, I still don't think they make the NCAA tournament. Quick break. We'll come back with more of the show that shakes the Southland right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400 in the Midlands. And, of course, heard around the world on the iHeart Radio application.